share, I can hire another receptionist. But if I have a chief technology officer who knows all the systems, and if he is not there, it will cause damage to my business because I am into technical industry or technology. So assuming we decide whom we need to give sweat equity, how the
Like Vijay
valuation,
Mallya like Vijay Mallya and Kingfisher.
like Vijay Mallya and Kingfisher. So how to give sweat equity to him?
With or without.
With or without method, absolutely right. So you need to find out if this person is with me, then what is my value of the company? If the person is not with my organization, then what is my value? The difference is sweat equity. Then you make a negotiation and make adjustment and give shares. You can even give sweat equity at 0 rupees to the recipient. But then he need to pay tax, that's a separate story. So taxing is different, but the sweat equity can be given 0. Recently, court ordered, NCLT ordered in one case, you cannot give sweat equity to the head of sales, because the head of sales job is to give sales to the company. You cannot say ये नहीं होगा तो सेल नहीं बढ़ेगी, तो काम ही था उसका सेल करना. So if he is not having specific skills, any specific benefit he is not giving, just because he is a head of sales, you should not give sweat equity. So sweat equity, you need to be very careful to see what actual value he is adding. So normally people give to those who are having technical knowledge, which is generally not available much. That is the ideal benchmark. You cannot issue redeemable, irredeemable, maximum 20 as we discussed. Wherever you are writing authorized share capital of the company, the law says you need to also write subscribed and paid up capital in the same font, same character, so that the people does not get misinformed that you are writing authorized share capital 1 crore rupees and your paid up is only 1 lakh rupees, which you are writing small font. We need to have same character, same font for authorized, subscribed, paid up. Normally, you will get assignments, practical life in section 60 to 1C, where you are issuing shares to third party. Then you need to have a valuation done mandatory from registered valuer. When you are issuing to existing members, you don't need to have that valuation report. That is not required. Only for third party. If you are doing a right issue and that issue is getting renounced, then also you don't need to have a valuation by a third registered valuer. Bonus shares you cannot issue by capitalizing revaluation reserves or in lieu of dividend. Nor if you have defaulted in any payment of dues or payment of loans, you cannot issue bonus shares. Security premium reserves and free reserves can be used for bonus reserves, bonus shares. In exam, very simple question comes in exam. What company is having liquidity crunch? You will advise what? Cash bonus or stock bonus? So everybody knows that stock bonus is in case of liquidity. You don't need to pay. You don't need to pay, shell out any money. If you have a liquidity, you cannot pay cash. So at times, there's very simple questions on logical. Share capital can be reduced. You can give loan to buy your own shares. Exception cases is banking companies, or if your employees, not to directors and KMP, and maximum for 6 months salary. That's a general rule. Buyback can always happen up to 10% by board, 25% up to by EGM, and you should not have defaulted before doing buyback. Any idea why buyback happens a lot? Last 2-3 years, a lot of buyback happened. Any thoughts? What was the reason of having buyback?
To increase promoters.
Sorry?
To increase promoters' share.
Then buyback will happen. Why? If promoters, okay, you are saying that way. Okay. Another reason of buyback was it was a very tax-saving device. In buyback, the recipient does not pay taxes. So if I am a shareholder and I have subscribed shares of a XYZ company, and the company offers me buyback, I'm not supposed to pay taxes because it is not considered sale. It is extinguishment of asset. So it is not that we are selling it. That was a very good platform. A lot of people used for tax savings. Company pay tax at somewhere around 15% or 17%, which is still less than what the corporate would have paid taxes, and I would have sold the shares. So this was used a lot. There is a very good article written by 2-3 big four firms on this buyback, how the big buyback works. So if you want to have knowledge on buyback, that is a good opportunity. Debentures cannot be issued for voting rights, and wherever you are issuing prospectus of debentures to more than 500 persons, we need to have a debenture trustee. That's an ideology. So this is on shares. Let me.
So in section 42 also we require the valuation report.
Yes. Where you are doing a preferential allotment, private placement, you need to have valuation. Simple is wherever the benefit changes, where the right is not given to all shareholders, you need to have a valuation. That's a thumb rule. By now, I'm sure you all would have registered on NISM by now. All would have login IDs created. नेहा का हुआ login ID create नहीं हुआ? नहीं हुआ. क्यों नहीं हुआ अभी तक? अभी शुभ मुहूर्त नहीं आया है.
नहीं सर, मंडे को करना है.
Sir, I have already created. I told you.
And you got that email from them also.
Yes.
Okay. So I'll take 10 minutes on exam process and exam papers. I'll just take 10 minutes on process, and then we'll go to, because we are getting too much of theory. So let me divert you from theory and look into that process. So process is very simple. It should not take more than 10 minutes for you to make a process. The only challenge comes where your name and Aadhaar and PAN number differs. So you need to go to IBBA website, go to examiner tab, look into asset class SFA. In SFA set class, there will be 3 options, that 1 June 2020, 1st April 2019. You need to choose 1 June 2020. It will take you to NSM website. Once you click it here, that registration happens at NSM website. You need to have your soft copy registered copy with you, your Aadhaar, your PAN card. These are data you should keep ready in soft copy. Upload this on the website. Once you upload this tomorrow, within 2 to 3 days, you will get an email ID from NISM that your ID is approved. So you can, once your training gets finished, you can register for exams. So that will be starting point. Once your training gets completed, you get a training certificate from RBO. Now you need to deposit 1770 rupees. Earlier it was 1500 rupees. From 1st June, they increased. Now you need to pay GST on that. So if you have individual registered GST, you can get credit, else 1770 is the cost. I always advise deposit 3000 rupees in advance. That too on a lighter note, because if for any reason you fail, फेल होने के बाद क्या होते हैं, मोटिवेटेड होते हैं, एक्साइटेड होते हैं, या वी डीमोरलाइज? क्या होता है फेल होने के बाद? those who have tasted failure, they can know that you get demotivated. लगता है इतना पढ़ा, इतनी मेहनत करी, 50 घंटा झेला, उसके बाद भी पास नहीं हो पाया, अब मैं दोबारा तैयारी करके दूंगा जब मैं पूरी तैयारी कर लूंगा, पूरा कोर्स पढ़ लूंगा. That day will never come. Syllabus is so big, you cannot prepare the whole syllabus. This I am sure Sudhanshu ji will be very well aware with your spouse's experience. Syllabus is too big, you can never finish. So you need to give exams quickly to get updated. Otherwise, things get very old very fast. And suppose I have given two papers, and I got passed in first attempt, then think 1500 as a charity to IBBA and forget it. Because anyways, last 1 year we have not spent a lot of money. We have not gone to PVRs and movie halls, so we saved a lot of money indirectly. So you can take a risk of spending 1500 and give exam quickly. Earlier, exam used to happen daily. So what used to people do? Book exam on Monday, second exam on Tuesday evening. So you have 1.5 days to rectify if I get fail in Monday. Now the biggest challenge is book exam slot. That is the biggest challenge, because now exam happens only on 1 day a week. So that is a limited number, and the times are slot. And the problem is NISM has other centers also. So they have exam of mutual fund, KYC, LIC. So many exam happens at that center. So you don't find seats at NISM center very frequently available. And suppose if you want to plan September, for any reason September, you won't find any seat today. So today if you open the exam center, you will find 0 seats in September. Then you need to open in July first week or July mid. Then they open seats for next month. So they do not keep seats open all the time. They are very restrictive in opening seats altogether. So they open seats very rarely on a week's time. So you need to keep checking when the seats are available. Excel is allowed and normal calculator also allowed. Those who know Excel, how to work on better on Excel, it will help you a lot in case studies. Else your normal MC calculator is with memory-based calculator allowed. Though the law says you are not supposed to take memory-based calculator. If you see the syllabus, it is written, don't take memory-based calculator. We don't get any working from memory-based without memory-based calculator, so you can always take that. Normally, when we go exam and give exam and pass exam on first attempt, let's say you give exam and pass with 70 marks. What is the first thing you do after calling your family and friends? सबसे पहले हम क्या करते हैं? We upload on social media that I have become registered valuer today, and which is good thing to do. You know that you should celebrate your success. Tell the world that you have become registered valuer. Otherwise, काम कैसे आएगा? लोगों को पता चलेगा मैं registered valuer बन गया तभी तो काम देंगे. So few people, 4 people did this after giving exam, passed exam with flying colors, wrote on their FB and Twitter or Facebook, LinkedIn that we have become registered valuer, and then they applied for valuation degree, and they are waiting 30 days, 45 days. No response came from IBBA, and a notice came from IBBA. Why we do not suspend your degree for next 6 months? Any thought? Why IBBA did not give them degree and why gave a warning letter?
Before getting the degree, they uploaded on the media.
So IBBA says, degree तो हम देंगे आपको. Who is given a right to tell you you are a registered valuer? You have passed the exam. You have no right to mention on Facebook that you are registered valuer. And it is very funny. I know the Jaipur guy who got this notice and he came crying to my office. He says, "Bhaiya, आप कुछ करो because you take your faculty at IBBA forums. आप बात करो." So I called an IBBA and जो मुझे झाड़ पड़ी है उस phone officer से, बोले you professional do not understand how can you solicit work? So उनका IBBA का क्या objective है? He's saying this guy by putting FP on LinkedIn, he's trying to solicit work without even getting approval, which is not a ethical process. He says once you become RV, get a degree, you paste the degree on Facebook wall, we have no problem. You write on LinkedIn, you paste this degree forever as your signature, we do have no issues. You give 100 days email to everybody, will not question. But without getting a entitlement from us, don't do that. And IBBA is very strict because I have being an insolvency professional and RV, I can tell you, this is the only regulator that has teeth and it bites too. आप कभी भी जब मूड इच्छा हो अनाउंसमेंट खोल के बैठ जाना IBBA की वेबसाइट पे रोज one IP you will find a case against IB that IBBA has put penalty against this IP against that IP because IBBA is very strict. They don't take things leniently unlike our all institutes which give some consideration. I'll give a classic case. Jaipur had a curfew there was some riot between two sects of community, so there was a curfew. So in the curfew 2 days entire internet was stopped so that no violence can further escalate. They closed the net. One of the IP was supposed to send minutes of meeting in this 2 days. Due to internet stopped, he was not able to circulate minutes of meeting to all the members. He was fined 50,000 rupees by IBBI for not circulating minutes in 48 hours. And he given a valid reason that this is a collector order. Nobody has internet. Nobody can send an email. Then they say, no, that is not our problem. If the law says it should be circulated within 48 hours, if you cannot circulate, there is no exception for us. So we will charge penalty. So that's a tough law is. So be very careful. Now, how does the exam screen looks like? So generally the exam screen looks like this generally. You get 1 to 90 questions. Now it is 93 questions now. Instead of there are more questions of 1 mark each. So you get questions like this. Then you get 4 options. They are not ABC. There are circles. Previous we all know to go back to the previous slide. Next is next slide. There is a button called review which helps you to find out. Suppose I am not sure what is the correct answer. So what would be the correct answer? ये तो मैंने ही पढ़ाया था गलत हो नहीं सकता. हो गया तो वापस पढ़ाऊंगा मैं.
RBI governor.
So RBI governor is the answer. But I am suppose confused. I am not sure should it be finance minister or RBI governor. So I will give answer whatever gets. It's my first guess. Whatever my gut feeling says, I'll select the answer. but still I'm not too sure. So what I will do, I'll put a word review, click the button review here. So review will help me. So my color coding will changes. So in my entire screen, the grid, color coding will tell me that this question I have fully covered. I should not relook. This question I have left blank, or this question I have marked as review. So by looking at the grid, I can find out which questions I need to review. So I can click on that button and immediately go there. So I can have an option to change answer anytime. I can also unanswer. So suppose I am not too sure that which should be the right answer, and I think I have given 70 correct answers, and any wrong answers might let me fail. So what I can do is I can unanswer that also. So once you go to 90, in the 90th question, apart from review, there will be a button called submit. So what will happen if I press the button submit in the 90th question instead of review, I by mistake press the button submit, then what will happen?
Exam will go over.
No, Shriram. Then the screen will ask you, are you in your senses, Shriram, now? Do you really want to submit? They will give you one warning that if you by mistake you have pressed the button submit. So second question they will ask, are you sure you want to submit? The moment you say submit, immediately your screen gets logged, and in 30 seconds you will get a feedback on your system that how was the center, what are the facilities, AC was working properly, water was given, blah blah blah. So that's a 30-second yes no feedback. Immediately fill the feedback. Immediately you get the result on your screen, pass or otherwise. You will only get how many questions you attempted, how many questions were right, how many questions were wrong, and how many left. Which question was wrong, you will never come to know. What was right, what was wrong, that you will never come to know. You only get this screen. Once you pass the exam, try to take the stamped seal signed certificate from that center. Center will print out the mark sheet from the center. That will help you for filing Form A. Suppose I pass the exam and I do not take the center sheet for any reason, then it will take 7 days for me to file Form A for getting membership, because then the sheet will come from NISM website later on. So it is always advisable to take a print. That should be fine. Best way to prepare for exam would be when you are sitting in exam center. Best way would be take rough sheets of paper from the center. They can give you as number of rough sheets you want, but they will not allow you to take those sheets with you back home. So if I finish the exam paper, the sheets cannot be taken. The sheets will remain with the center only. Try to note down in the sheet which question you think you are absolutely right. So number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So you know, okay, 70 questions, I am 100% sure it is correct. This will give you an idea how much right answers you are happening and how much you are in between. Once you are okay with 70, 75 marks, you think you are sufficient, stop answering irrelevant questions which you don't know at all. So if you don't know any questions, do not answer. You can always ignore those questions. That will help you. Otherwise, answering all questions might lead you 59.75. I have seen many people failing between 59.5 and 75. And I got a call from a 74-year-old professional CA in Coimbatore. And he called me and said, next time when you go to IPBI, just tell them one suggestion. At least keep a rounding off provision for senior citizens, that those who are 60 plus, when they secure 59.75, make them 60. And which is very near. 59.75 or 59.5 means you are on the borderline. You just clear that. One wrong answer can keep you negative marking. So be very careful. At times, if your bad luck is running too good, at times your computer may crash in between. So it happens because NISM has old systems. So your computer may conk off in between. Do not get worried at all. The system exam is so safe. From wherever you get stopped, it will resume in another system. So no need to worry on if something goes wrong, haywire. That should not be concerned. 120 minutes are more than sufficient for this exam, more than sufficient, because 1 mark question you can finish in 40 minutes. 1 to 80 questions you can almost finish in 40 minutes. Why? Because when you see a MCQ in front of your screen, immediately in 1 or 2 seconds you know the answer or not. If you know the answer, in next second you can click the button. If you don't know the answer, how much time you will take, you don't know the answer. Because this is MCQ. So answer तो आएगा भी नहीं भी आता तो guess off तो चलता नहीं है. So it will 40 minutes are sufficient for 80 marks. Then you have sufficient 60 minutes for minimum for case studies. Your case study should ideally take you 30 minutes minimum. That should be a good time you spend on reviewing the case studies. Excel will always help you. Your answer will never match to the case study. Suppose my case study answer is 3.76. my answer can be 3.75 or 3.79. It may not be entire 3.76 because the rule say, the question says, which is the most approximate answer? Because it may happen you are taking 6 decimals, I am taking 2 decimals, answer changes based on decimals. So don't need to be scared if your answer is not tying exactly the answer coming in. If it is coming to the near, that should be the right answer. If you have any questions on the exam process, you can ask now before I conclude.
So exam will be from home, online, or we have to go to centers only in this time also?
I wish I could answer yes to your query, but answer is no. Though when you go to NISM, you will see option home proctored online exam at home. You will see that option. So a lot of people called me, sir, it is very good option. आपने तो बताया नहीं हमें. You do not even told me. Then I said, okay, you go and try that. If you get successful, let me know. So this option is only for, this is not for valuation and not for IBBI. Apart from that,
I have called NISM also regarding this.
no, they
Make an inquiry.
It is only for independent director exam and those exams which NISM thinks फर्क नहीं पड़ता कैसे भी पास हो जाए. That is KYC, that is mutual fund. तो उनको फर्क नहीं पड़ता. So this question, just like Shriram called, so many people called to NISM and say हमारी जान की परवाह नहीं है, हम जाएंगे, बाकी सारे एग्जाम फालतू है. बोले या तो आप बोल दो बाकी सारे एग्जाम फालतू है. They cannot say like this सारे एग्जाम फालतू है. जैसे IBBI do not permit to sit at home. So you need to go to the center. So where are you, Binal, in Mumbai? Which part you are?
I am in Malad.
So you have one center in Andheri, which is working, and one center in Thane. So I know these 2 centers are working day in day out. Even today they are working. Despite all pandemic, they were not closed. So Thane and Andheri are working. Imagine the plight of people staying in Nariman Point and Kolaba. Sir, Kolaba mein center nahi hai, घर में center nahi hoga, jahan wahan le lo. It has 1 or 2 centers maximum. So 3 is maximum. In Calcutta or in Bangalore, there are 3 centers. Mumbai, there are a lot of centers, but after this pandemic, they reduced the number of centers. So Andheri, Thane opens everywhere. So you can always.
In Chennai, sir.
Chennai, they have 2 centers. I am not able to recall location exactly. I think one is in Nungambakam. Okay, one important point. At times, in some center, you will not have Microsoft Excel. फिर घर से लेके जाना पड़ेगा. अब जेब में से तो लेके जा नहीं सकते Excel. अब Excel नहीं मिलेगा तो क्या करेंगे? Then they will give you OpenOffice or Apache. So these are 2 free Excel versions which are similar to Excel but not exactly Excel. There is no need to scare if you don't get Excel. Formulas are as same as they are in Excel. The only difference is instead of comma in Excel, they use semicolon. That is the only difference. So no need to worry on Apache and OpenOffice. But your Excel, you should start working because Excel helps you a lot. In exam, you get such a lollipop question. Take example, question comes, calculate, they will give you 3 datas, A, B, C company revenue. And they say calculate mean of it. Can you calculate without Excel? Computer पे कर सकते हैं ना, हाथ पे भी कर सकते हैं. Mean is like averaging. You can do that mean on your calculator also. Simple calculator. Then the question will come, calculate median also and calculate mode also of these 2 companies. Median mode, I don't know किसनों को याद है नहीं याद है, सबने 11th 12th में पढ़ा होगा, मुझे तो नहीं याद था. Then Excel helps you. Excel will help you where put equals to, write mode, bracket, all formula will come in front of you in Excel. So Excel will help you a lot not to remember formulas. So that can always come in your handy. That should not be a concern. Any other question? Yeah.
Sir, after finishing this course, when will we be getting the 50 hours completion certificate? At once or else it will take some time for the RVO to issue?
I think in a day or 2, maximum in a day or 2. I think. Mostly, ideally, they give on last day. But at times, any reason it may go to Monday or Tuesday, maximum Tuesday. Monday is idle because normally they print names and all, So at times your, let's say Shriram's name is not proper in their records. When you fill the form, it might be S Shriram or whatever. So they check from the records and make the right name and then they take them. So ideally it should be on same day ideally, else within 2 days they will give. Okay. Anything else on exam you want to ask, thought? And I always say that at least in next 1 month, once you finish the course in next 1 month, try to go and give exam. And even if you are not prepared, and why I always say that, आप लोगों ने कभी ऑफिस एक सीरियल देखा होगा? पंकज कपूर का एक ऑफिस सीरियल आता था बहुत पुराना, if you have recalled, very old serial.
Yes,
And that there is a character used to say, if you go to give exam, only two things can happen. Either you will pass or you will fail. Nothing more than happen than this. ये दो चीजें हो सकती हैं. If you pass, that is what we are looking for. That's the aim, to pass. But for any reason, if you do not pass for any reason, in that scenario, you will have two things. You will be able to see 100 live questions by spending 1,500 rupees. That live questions you will be seeing that what is the level of questions are coming. Get a real feel of it. Second, you will be able to come to know which areas are those where you need to do actual work. There will be certain areas which will be very good at it. So suppose you will be very good at law, tax, other things. You may not be good at fixed income, derivatives, options. So then you need to focus on that area only. So once in these MCQs, in these kind of exams, you can't study again and again. You have studied everything once, concept is clear, then you just need to brush up on something which you are not fully aware. And those parents, father and mother who teaches kids at your home for any reason, if you teach your kids at your home, then one advice to you is never tell your kids that Papa or Mummy is going to give valuation exam. Think of the other side. You pass, it's well and good. Suppose you do not pass for any reason. फिर घर आके बच्चा पूछेगा पापा मम्मी क्या एग्जाम मेरा बेटा फेल हो गए. You will not have the guts to scold the kid again. बेटा पढ़ाई कर लो. बोलेगा मम्मी आप भी पढ़ाई कर लो. And this happened with me. So I got, as I told you, I passed in 2 attempts. In first attempt, I got fail. So my F was written on my screen. That it was by BSc. So Bombay Stock Exchange earlier exam was by BSc, not by NSM. NSM happened in 2019. So I got F written on my sheet. So my son was 5 years old. So he started shouting, Papa first time, in entire house. So imagine you got failed and your son is shouting at him, Papa first time. So I said I failed. And then my son make my life crazy. He said, Papa, जब तक आप पास नहीं होगे, मोबाइल नहीं छूओगे, लैपटॉप नहीं देखोगे, पढ़ाई करो. Till next 15 days, I cannot scold my child. I passed the exam, then got the guts to scold him. So that's, and it sounds funny. I cannot name the valuer with, again, for reputation reasons. A valuer in Mumbai, everybody knows that valuer in Mumbai. He was the one who do all the big valuations in Mumbai. It took him 6 attempts to pass, where he was a valuer of big companies in India. Unko 6 attempt laga because last 20 years he was only doing valuation. He does not know anything apart from valuation. Unka junior जो 2 साल पहले join करा था, he passed in first attempt. He said मुझे complex हो गया कि मैं 20 साल से valuation कर रहा हूँ और मैं valuation exam fail हो गया और 6 attempt. Not because he does not have a knowledge. We need to understand those who are working in one sector, they are specialized in only one sector. But the syllabus is so vast that if you don't read income tax, if you don't read IBC, companies law, it becomes challenge. So you need to know all other laws. 35 to 40 marks purely on theory. Maybe if time permit, I will share some questions recently which have come recently, and how do I get all these questions? Whatever questions we are sharing till from day 1 till day now, all participants who give exams, they come back, either they pass or fail, they share some questions to get some clarity. So they share some questions. I'll show you some questions. Some questions are so lollipop that you can easily give exam. And some questions are so absurd that I don't have an answer. So I'll share some questions which looks absurd, but if you are aware, you can always pass. So don't need to worry on exam. Just give attempts quickly. And maybe in first attempt can always be a lucky attempt. So that is the case. And if you don't have any questions, then I can just wish you all the best for exams only before I come to slides. If you have any other question on exam, you can ask something you want to check before I come back. And I told you about sample papers, right? You all need to read sample papers. I have shared all sample papers mostly in the previous emails. Anybody has not got sample papers, then let me know. Else we'll get I'll share a link to download all sample papers. Whatever MCQs you should get. I don't know, I shared you one YouTube channel link also. There is a YouTube link, Insolvency Power for Prep. Else I will share on the WhatsApp. There's a YouTube link where a lot of MCQs are available. You can at least look into that YouTube link for practicing for purpose. So wherever you are driving or you're going on, you can see those videos. You need to read all sample papers. So you need to read sample paper of all SFA, 3 sample papers of SFAs, and I told you there are certain mistakes in sample papers, right? I showed last seminars, yes or no? I'm not
Yes,
able
you shown. Yes.
So don't take sample papers blindly, but take them as an example to look into. Read sample paper of land and building and plant and machinery mandatory. पढ़ना चाहिए नहीं पढ़ना चाहिए सैंपल पेपर को यहाँ बोले फैकल्टी बोल रहे हैं तो पढ़ लेना चाहिए अपने क्या पढ़ लो बहुत पढ़ते हैं इतने लॉ पढ़ते हैं 2-4 सैंपल पेपर और पढ़ लेंगे and mandatory you should read because you all have common syllabus. Whatever syllabus you have common of economics, IBC, transfer property, stamp act, land and building and plant and machinery has the same syllabus. So just read those question papers which are relevant to your syllabus. Don't need to read technical question papers. So there are technical how to value land and plant and machinery that is not in your syllabus. Don't read that. Only read theory part. That should be sufficient to start with. There are materials available which is sufficient to read. If you read whatever materials I have shared and whatever I will share also ICMA material also if you need to have more reading of materials. So there are 3 volumes of ICMA. For theory part that would be sufficient to go through. So I don't think more than that you should go. Some things I cannot share on WhatsApp due to confidentiality and other clauses. So email would be fine so that nobody can put me hold later on. We'll take 10 minutes break for tea break.
Yes.
नया कंफ्यूज है बोले बिना पूछे ब्रेक दे दिया सर आज इतने अच्छे कैसे हो गए सो मुझे भी चाय पीना है सो विल टेक ए 10 minutes tea break and then we'll resume at 4:15. Okay. I hope you are able to see the WhatsApp screen now.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir.
See the last question which came. Now, this is nowhere related to your syllabus, but they ask the question: when one company issues insurance policy on behalf of another company, what it is called? So the person who has who was given exam, he just passed a day before yesterday. So he has given the exam. Now, fronting, pooling, substandard, this is not in your syllabus, but still they are asking question on insurance. So at times you'll get absurd questions. So for sure, given the three options, I don't know what would be the fourth option because he has given three. So pooling does not happen here. Substandard does not happen. Substandard is when you are giving somebody is not entitled to get insurance, but still you give him insurance by charging extra premium. That is substandard. So fronting looks the best answer given the three, but I'm not sure what would be the fourth option. It can be any other name. So you should be aware of basic things. Once you will be teaching or getting on valuation of special entities, that might be covered. But now see the point which I wanted to prove, that there are such a questions. Just let me show. See, income tax, we discussed this question. There are such a question in exam. It is rounded off to which next rupees? 10 never rounded off, 1 rupee, 100 rupees. So those who practice, for them it is easy to find out. For those who does not practice, it is little bit challenging. Take example. So see what the idea of showing this to you is to get an idea that how questions are coming and these questions repeating again and again. So this person took 2 attempts. So first attempt and second attempt. He was lucky that a lot of questions in first attempt repeated in second. So read this question 1 and what would be your answer of question 1?
Startup.
So you can never use cost approach for startup companies. For holding company, you can use cost approach because that is underlying assets. Investment company, cost approach can be used because there is having investments. And real estate also, cost approach can be used because that is the best benchmark. That is a minimum benchmark because you bought the asset at this price. For what would be the second question?
Advertisement agency.
Advertisement.
Advertisement agency.
Advertisement is a service industry. It does not have any assets. The real value comes on the recurring number of customers they have. You cannot get value from on book value of an advertisement because they don't have assets. Mining, construction, manufacturing has some asset base. So these are very common sense questions. So if you apply logics, most of the times you will be right. And see, then they come get these simple questions also, which I'm sure we have covered. Question 3, 4th, I'm sure you all would have been aware. What would be in question number 3?
21 or 41? 21.
Remember, when there is an issue, they will give you 21 days to rectify. 45 is for your notice when they don't want to give you membership. That is not to remove deficiency. And see okay, you are saying 21 and 45. Okay, you are answering 4th question also. So the 4th question is, it is 45. Remember, we read the rules line by line and we said we need to read the rules. Question 5. Remember, I told you.
Straightforward.
So they will either remove straightforward or remove forthright. They will blanks in all of the questions. Okay. Dinesh Lakhani was sorry. So Brook Bond, which was the name of other company, now they ask such a simple question also.
Hindustan Unilever.
Hindustan Unilever Limited.
So you need to have just basic strong once basic reading. If you're fine, question is not that typical. So if you try, I don't know, I did justice to intangibles or not. Try to read this question. If you can recall,
Greenfields.
remember I said in Greenfield there is only one asset we assume. that
Yes,
only
yes.
5G, if you have only license, telecom license, then only the value of company comes. Otherwise, no value comes in. So the point which I wanted to again prove on the table is questions you can never prepare for any book. You just need to give attempt. Questions are coming sensible. एक बार fundamental आपका clear है basic पढ़ के, no need to get scared of exam. We only get scared because after so many long time you are coming in a student mode. So 12th और CA बनने या CS बनने के बाद जो भी आप प्रोफेशन के बाद अब आप एक्चुअली में पढ़ाई कर रहे होंगे बहुत टाइम बाद. This would be the real exam. Be honest to ourselves. बाकी सारे एग्जाम हमारे टाइम पास होते थे. I have done so many certification courses from various institutes. I was never scared or never did that much hard work which I did for IBBI and valuations because base से पढ़ना पड़ता है and these are giving value.
So ICA evaluation is more tougher.
I told you that day one also. मैंने आपको day one पे पहले बोला था, if you recall, I said you will be saying that was much better. Remember my first discussion with you that I told you
Yes, sir.
studied
Yes, sir.
that would be much better. So for a मैं सबको ये बोलता हूँ, a lot of people say you are giving a negative views. I can guarantee by passing this exam you can never become a good valuer. I can guarantee. Why? Because this is not teaching how to do valuations. अभी तो हम सिर्फ थ्योरी की बात कर रहे हैं. रियल लाइफ में जब प्रैक्टिकल आप करोगे वो तो अभी हमने सिखाया ही नहीं. वो अभी हमने सीखा क्या? कुछ भी हमने कुछ भी नहीं सीखा. प्रैक्टिकल कैसे करना है मैंने आपको बताया कि आईबीसी में कैसे वैल्यूएशन करना है. आईबीसी में वैल्यूएशन होता है ये मैंने बताया आपको. कैसे करना है वो सिलेबस में ही नहीं है. तो अभी मैं एग्जाम I will be so becoming a registered valuer by IBBI is like getting a driving license, but I need to put L on my car that I got the license, but I don't know how to drive properly. So I get a registered value degree, but I don't know how to do it properly. But having said that, we learn by doing only. So once we become registered valuer, we have a huge opportunity to learn, exchange views, ask questions. Your peers, your groups, like we can always exchange questions and always discuss on any points when we are stuck at any matter evaluation. There are a lot of good materials published by various RVOs. So if you go to ICA RVO, so many materials on valuation. Go to internet, so many materials on valuation. So practically we'll now not be stuck, but we need to work a little bit harder. और एक बार ये थोड़ा सा एग्जाम पास हो जाए, we prepare for something for theory, then everything will be in a cakewalk. Then not to worry. So I'll share these questions. That is not an issue. See the simple questions, logical, nothing else. अगर आपने कुछ भी नहीं पढ़ा ना, अगर आप सोचेंगे, just read something and you'll be able to find out what should happen. So there are so many questions which I skipped now. You all can discuss these questions. So I'm trying to see what others which is relevant. Because okay, this question which I need you to look into it. Now Indes, just read this question. Even if you are not expert at Indes, now they are asking you to know the basics. Remember, Indes में दो markets होते हैं fair value में, principal madam and most advantageous madam. Principal market PM and most advantageous market ma'am. What should be the answer of this?
Transportation cost.
Transaction cost.
So Shriram is saying transportation cost and Binal is saying, what you are saying, Binal?
Sorry. Transportation cost.
Pakka.
Not exist.
Watermark out.
Now,
Sir.
okay, think logic.
I forgot.
I'm not testing anybody's logic or knowledge. Don't think that I'm trying to test your knowledge. No. Point which I'm trying to bring here is, आपने पढ़ा भी होगा तब भी आप भूल जाओगे because आपको नहीं पता क्वेश्चन कैसे पूछा जा रहा है एग्जाम में, you know. So I would have been read fair value definition. मैंने fair value पढ़ लिया. Question comes on PM. What is the principal market? How you define? Then ma'am, what is most advantageous market? Now understand.
Sir, transaction cost.
Absolutely right. So transaction cost is not adjusted in deciding principal market. Okay, but in deciding most advantageous market, when we are deciding fair value, I will reduce transaction cost also and transportation cost also. When I'm doing fair value, then I'll remove everything. But when I'm deciding what is my principal market, I will not reduce transaction cost, and transportation cost is considered to be a part of my cost. So there are very basic things you need to look. So just read a little bit theory, and I'm trying to see any interesting question. read 24. अभी ये 24 गलत मत करना कोई भी, ये तो मैंने ही पढ़ा है क्योंकि
Common size analysis.
you're sure or you're trying your luck? नेहा क्या
I
लगता
think
है?
it should be common size analysis. When you are doing comparison, obviously the size should be like at least some common size. Then you compare. Otherwise, too much of adjustments would be required, I think.
You think so? नेहा क्या लगता है?
So same common size analysis.
क्यों? क्या होता है कॉमन साइज एनालिसिस?
सर कुछ तो अगर कंपेयर करना है तो कुछ तो हमें बेसिक लेना पड़ेगा कंपेयर करने के लिए. हाउ ग्राफिकल और रिटर्निंग एनालिसिस में हम क्या कंपेयर करेंगे?
अनुज जी आपको क्या लगता है?
हॉरिजॉन्टल
हॉरिजॉन्टल
मतलब उसमें ग्राफिकल था शायद, क्योंकि हॉरिजॉन्टल और वर्टिकल
मैं इतना खुश हुआ कि किसी ने तो मेरी क्लास ढंग से पढ़ी. हॉरिजॉन्टल वर्टिकल बोलते हैं मेरे दिल गार्डन हो गया. बट आगे जो आपने स्टेटमेंट बोला ना ग्राफिकल, मैंने कहा गई मेरी भैंस पानी में. रिमेंबर मैंने आपको बताया था कॉमन साइज एनालिसिस. आई आस्क्ड अ क्वेश्चन कि अगर मैं इनकम स्टेटमेंट को वर्टिकल पे ले रहा हूँ तो व्हाट वुड बी द बेस कॉमन साइज में? याद है?
यस.
So common size includes vertical or horizontal. So the point which again I am trying to prove, मैं नहीं कह रहा मैंने पढ़ाया नहीं पढ़ाया वो अलग बात है. Point is एग्जाम में इतना सिंपल क्वेश्चन भी आता है तो दैट वी नीड टू रिमेंबर. और एक क्वेश्चन नंबर 26 पढ़ो आप. He could not remember the answers. थैंकफुल भाई ने 27 क्वेश्चन टाइप तो करके भेजे अपने को. हम बोलेंगे ऑप्शन भी नहीं दिए तूने तो जो दिया वो ले लो. रीड क्वेश्चन 26. इतना सिंपल क्वेश्चन पूछते हैं कि अगर ऑप्शन नहीं भी दे तो आपको पता होगा क्या होता है. So current assets और fixed assets में difference क्या होता है? So fixed assets are long term, current assets are short term. Fixed assets are you don't sell और current assets move on within 12 months. So छोटी-छोटी चीजें जो एग्जाम में बहुत सिंपल आती है. तो 40 to 50 marks is a very simple. जरा से भी पढ़ाई करिए 50 घंटे थोड़ा बहुत भी सुना है तो for 50 marks is not a challenge at all. उसके बाद आपको थोड़ा सा मेहनत करना पड़ेगा to cross the bridge 50 to 60, right? So I think this is sufficient to give you an idea. Now let's go to compromise and arrangements. This guy first attempt was 59.5 और ये क्यों फेल हो गया? इसने 2-3 क्वेश्चन इसको लगते थे पूरे आते हैं. But then he gave a quick answers and he gave wrong answers. They are very, I don't know, risk आपका covered हुआ है क्या? अभी risks in any of the session risk got covered yesterday. What are the risks? कुछ idea है? What are the risks? Any thoughts like portfolio risk, systematic risk, unsystematic risk? Anybody is aware of? Idea है थोड़ा बहुत भी किसी को risk के बारे में? What are these risks?
Yes, sir.
Diversifiable, non-diversifiable, systematic, unsystematic.
Okay, so question comes: which risk can be set off by portfolio? By investing into a portfolio, which risk you can mitigate? I'll give you 4 options. Portfolio risk, total risk, systematic risk, unsystematic risk.
Unsystematic risk.
Which is the right answer? Why it is the right answer? Anybody can explain apart from those who have said the answer. So exam इतना simple question आता है और लोग portfolio risk टिक करके आते हैं. Portfolio risk cannot be mitigated by investing in portfolio. Portfolio risk ही अलग होती है. So there are 3 risks: total risk, systematic and unsystematic. Anybody can explain? Neha, what do you think by unsystematic risk? नाम से क्या लगता है? जो आपके सिस्टम में नहीं है, आपने अच्छा वायरस लगा रखा है एंटीवायरस, तो आपके सिस्टम में रिस्क नहीं होगा. ऐसा नहीं होता. Unsystematic risk means the risk which is only specific to your entity, your company. Systematic risk is the risk which is to entire industry. Take example, when demonetization would have happened, it would have been a systematic risk to entire industry. तो आप पोर्टफोलियो भी कर लोगे तो कुछ फर्क नहीं पड़ेगा क्योंकि पूरी कंट्री की बैंड बच गई थी. बट इन केस ऑफ अनसिस्टमेटिक रिस्क यू मिटिगेट बाय डाइवर्सिफिकेशन, यू मिटिगेट बाय पोर्टफोलियो. तो अगर मैंने एक कंपनी का, जस्ट अ सेकंड, मेरा व्हाट्सएप पे वैसे पिंग आएगा, अगर मैंने एक कंपनी में कुछ इन्वेस्टमेंट्स कर रखा है तो उसका रिस्क अवॉइड करने के लिए मैं दूसरी कंपनी में डालूंगा. एक एग्जांपल, मैंने अगर अडानी में इन्वेस्टमेंट कर रखा है और ऐसा कुछ न्यूज आता है कि इसका पोर्टफोलियो गिरता है तो मैं बैलेंसिंग करने के लिए किसी दूसरी एंटिटी में साथ में जरूर डालूंगा ताकि आई शुड नॉट हैव ए प्रॉब्लम. तो एग्जाम में बहुत फंडामेंटल क्वेश्चंस आते हैं. अगर थोड़ा सा भी वी आर एबल टू टेक केयर ऑफ बेसिक टॉपिक्स, इट शुड बी सफिशिएंट. जस्ट गिव मी अ मिनट, आई नीड टू क्लोज दैट. थोड़ा पिंग करता रहेगा. Now, compromise arrangements. Again, in Companies Act, very simple question comes on compromise arrangements. So, Companies Act covers your shares, compromise, and winding up. That comes under IBC also. So, let me rush to compromise. So, there is a corporate debt restructuring scheme we want to pass. So, why does compromise happens? Compromise can happen between two parties, either between shareholders. So suppose company has issued shares earlier. Now they want to change some scheme, some terms. So you need to have a scheme between compromise arrangement between members. Or you have taken loans from parties. Now it does not happen CDR. Now they will go to NCLT. But earlier when the scheme was there, if I need to make any changes between my debtors and my creditors or any scheme, any terms, I need to go for CDR scheme. So to get my CDR scheme approved, I need to have consent of minimum how many creditors? Any idea? What is the percentage of creditors required to approve my scheme? Suppose I decided to all my debentures holder, I will pay interest at 10%. But now I say I will pay only 5%. If I need to get this scheme approved, how many people should approve?
90.
75% scheme approval is required. 90 is for certain something else. Who can raise objections to CDR? So the minority can always raise objection to the CDR. If minority is not happy with this change, they can always raise objection. Criminal order need to file in 30 days. So whenever your CDR scheme is approved, you need to file order to ROC. If your 90% creditors are okay with the scheme, you are not supposed to hold a physical meeting. You can avoid calling a meeting. Otherwise, if your only 80% creditors are okay with your CDR scheme, you need to call a meeting. But if your 90% members are okay, they agree your terms and conditions, you don't need to call a meeting specifically. CDR is effective from which date? Appointed, effective, approved date.
True date.
Appointed date.
अभी एग्जाम में इतना कंफ्यूजिंग क्वेश्चन लगता है. जो प्रैक्टिस करते होंगे कंपनी सेक्रेटरी या जो भी लॉयर्स या जो भी M&A की प्रैक्टिस करते होंगे उनको पता लगता है कि व्हाट डेट इज रेलेवेंट. नॉर्मली लोग सोचते हैं इफेक्टिव में भी इफेक्टिव डेट और अप्रूव डेट. करेक्ट आंसर इज अपॉइंटेड डेट. सो ये थोड़े से कुछ कंफ्यूजिंग क्वेश्चंस होते हैं जो लगते हैं सिंपल है बट एग्जाम में नेगेटिव मार्क्स में जाते हैं. इट इज अपॉइंटेड डेट. होल्डिंग सब्सिडरी amalgamation can happen easily under section 230 to 233. If there is a 100% subsidiary, 100% holding, you can always go for amalgamation. You can always go for merger whenever you want. Ideally, you don't need a valuation report. You need to give a nil valuation report in this kind of cases, saying that there is no exchange ratio. Why there is no valuation report? Because exchange ratio नहीं होगा. अगर holding ही subsidiary को ले रहा है तो share किसको issue करेगा? खुद को थोड़ा share issue कर सकता. मैं खुद को ही थोड़ा शेयर इशू करूंगा कंपनी को. सो इन केस ऑफ होल्डिंग सब्सिडरी इट इज नलिफाइड. नो एक्सचेंज रेशियो इज रिक्वायर्ड. एंड इफ देयर आर टू स्मॉल कंपनीज व्हिच आर वेरी स्मॉल, then there is a separate section in Companies Act that allows to amalgamate quickly. You don't need to go for long hassle. Small companies have a separate regulations. minority shares are purchased on registered value, and question here comes the registered value. So in exam they ask question, if your scheme does not get if your minority is not okay with your change in scheme, then the share will be purchased at what price? So the shares will be purchased at a registered valuer report. In this case, whenever a scheme happens, RV will give you a report, and then the registered valuer will, based on his report, give a number. Minority may accept that report or can go to NCLT against that report. It's their call. Can central government has a power to amalgamate two companies on its own will? Can they say?
Yes, maybe.
On generally, so even if it is a private company or a public company, central government has power to amalgamate two companies on its own will. There can be various reasons. If the government thinks it is in the national interest of country, then they can always do this amendment. Till date, no such order has been passed by government where government ordered two companies to amalgamate on its own will. Only one order happened, but that does not fall into this section. When government asked Tech Mahindra to take over Satyam, but that was not the case, which was fitting in this section. Otherwise, if you search out on this, government has not issued any order till date where government has asked two companies to merge on its own will, but they have a power. Now, how long the books of amalgamate company has to be kept? So, for example, company A is amalgamating into company B. So, company A technically will be no longer in existence. So, how long the books of amalgamated company should be kept? Normally, it is 8 years in all other cases. Anything specific in this section you recall? If anybody is able to recall anything on this section ever? So there is no time limit mentioned in the Act how long the book should be kept. The section says the books will be kept forever. There is no timeline. And if you want to destroy the books, you need to take government permission. Ask central government to appoint someone to come and look at the books. Then central government will appoint somebody to look at the books of amalgamated company to check if any fraud has been done by you at the time of amalgamation to avoid any legal or other liabilities. After government approval, only the books can be destroyed. In all other cases, it is 8 years generally. So I'll not go the slides line by line. Slides you can always take. The crux I have taken on this slide. I'll rush on valuation and then I'll take surface. We have income tax. In the meantime, the slide gets open. Before we go to income tax, we'll take just one topic of winding up. Apart from those who are company secretaries, they should not answer because probably they know the answers. Question for others. Now we discussed IBC. So IBC has a winding up provision. So now, do we have a winding up provision in Companies Act also? If yes, then is there a need? Because we are doing a winding up in IBC. Then what was the need?
Yes, we need. If we going voluntary liquidation, winding up, then we will also Companies Act.
पक्का?
Yes.
पक्का? तो फिर अपन ने उसमें क्या पढ़ा था? कि voluntary winding up में you can always go in IBC also. आया ना?
Then there is a creditor.
क्रेडिटर वॉलंटरी में क्रेडिटर जा ही नहीं सकता ना कंपनीज एक्ट में, तो क्रेडिटर अब जाएगा एनसीएलटी में.
If I don't have any in balance sheet, I don't have any creditor, and my balance sheet is clean. So no liability, no asset other than my reserve and my capital. Then I have to go to Companies Act.
Then you have to go to Companies Act. Okay. So in Companies Act, if you remember earlier, what was the law? Earlier the law was, one thing which moved out from winding up in Companies Act was where the company is unable to pay debts. That was one section in Companies Act, section 433. that if company is unable to pay debts, it can go under winding up. Now that has been removed from the Companies Act. Now it has gone to IBC. But there are certain sections. For example, if the registrar wants to liquidate, then where is the provision? It is not in IBC. If you have done any act which is against the national interest, it is not in IBC. If you have not filed your returns for how many years consecutively?
3 years.
3 years.
3 years make you dormant, defunct. But to go for liquidation, where the registrar can order, it is 5 years. So in exam, if question comes for how many years you have not filed, the registrar can ask for liquidation. It is 5 years. 3 years only will make you dormant and not inactive. But you for 5 years is period for liquidation. So the ROC had power only in Companies Act. But for voluntary, I can always go to IBC and take it. So this was causing a lot of trouble that at the same time you have two winding up provisions, one in Companies Act, one in IBC. So government is working on it and trying to align that. Let's put all winding up out of Companies Act and give a reference that whatever happened in IBC should be followed as Companies Act. They are working on it because different laws work. It causes a concern. So that government is working on, MC is working on drafting that. So winding up mode we have either by tribunal or either by your you already made a board resolution that we should be winded up if it is for a limited period company. Tribunal can always give you a winding up for various reasons when they are not happy with you, when you are not done anything, when you're doing anything against the national interest or wherever they feel so. And the rule is it is just an equitable for ROC to think that winding up is good for you, they can order. So it is arbitrary on ROC based on your any action. If you default filing annual returns for consecutive 5 years, it can always go for winding up. Can creditor file for voluntary winding up? Again, answer is no. Creditor can never file for voluntary. It is only by member. Creditor can go for NCLT, IBC. Nothing more than that he can go. After how many years unclaimed money is transferred into whom? Now, suppose we are going for a winding up. We decided to liquidate a company and liquidator is appointed. So a very simple question asked in exam, very funny, simple question. Those who have ever read any liquidation account would be able to know how do you open a liquidation account of a company in a bank? How it is opened? In the name of liquidator or in the name of government? How do you open it? Practically,
in the name of the company under liquidation.
So the law says any company going into liquidation, your bank account should be opened in the name of company bracket in liquidation. They are such a simple question in exam, and those who practice, who would have ever read, they would be aware that this is the way it is opened. Now, suppose we are doing a liquidation of a company, and we are unable to find the shareholder. So I need to give money to a shareholder or to anyone. I'm not able to find where the person is. Then the money will be transferred to whom and where?
Investor protection.
7 years consumer.
Investor Protection Education Fund.
IEPF.
बिल्कुल नहीं.
Consumer protection and.
अब इन्वेस्टर से कंज्यूमर पे आ गए. चलो किसी को तो प्रोटेक्शन कर ही देते हैं हम. कंज्यूमर प्रोटेक्शन फंड बिल्कुल नहीं. ये इन्वेस्टर और कंज्यूमर, इन्वेस्टर वाला कब होता है? When preference share is not paid, dividend is not paid for 7 years consecutive. यहाँ कितना टाइम है? Here 15 years. If we are doing a liquidation and for 15 years after liquidation I cannot find anybody, then the money is transferred to Consolidated Fund of India, General Reserve of Consolidated Fund of India. I'll share that slide shortly. That is only for 15 years. Okay. Liquidator to deposit money in which banks? Any bank, private bank, public bank, scheduled bank. Scheduled bank. So the law says scheduled banks used to deposit money. So this winding up is very big. Winding up contains 95 sections. You don't need to read entire slide, though the slide covers everything. I do not advise you to read slides. It's a too big slide. Just remember the trivia question what we discussed, and I'll take you some few questions immediately where you should know. So when we discuss what are the reasons tribunal can file, I'll take to that this one. 15 years, if you are not able to distribute the money which is lying, 15 years you deposit to general revenue account of central government. So that is the general revenue account of central government you deposit in 15 years. Consolidated fund is something else. So this is minimum you require when you want to do a winding up. You need to give declaration of solvency, financials that we discuss in case of when we are doing the IBC. So this is one. Before I take to income tax, just one question one thing which practically I missed in IBC. So if you know GST practice, if I have not deposited last 6 months return or any returns of last 6 months or any number of period, and if I become IRP today, can I deposit return today without paying last money? Or I need to pay last money, dues, taxes, then only I can deposit, file new return? Any thoughts? Those who practice into GST?
First you deposit previous dues, then only you can file.
So suppose previously there is a huge liability. Suppose before my ICD date, before my NCLT gets admitted, there is 1 crore liability which company has not paid. Now today I have joined as a IRP. What does the law says? The day IRP joins, he need to ensure compliances continues for next 180 days. He need to take care of all compliances. I need to take compliances. Now, if I need to file GST return of this month, which I have joined, I need to deposit 1 crore rupees, which I don't have. So this was causing a technical problem. So this is the law says, because system is system. System bolta hai, pehle ka bharo, tabhi aage jane dunga. That was causing a lot of trouble. COC said, no, we will not give you money for, we will not give you any money for depositing previous dues. Why should we pay money for the dues which promoter have taken runaway? That was a problem. Then what happened? Then GST got amended now. So now in GST, there is a rule in GST that, what is the rule in GST? That all returns of past will be on hold. RP has to apply for a new GST number for a company in CRP. So for a same PAN, there will be a new PAN, a new GST number will be issued for company in CRP. Then RP can start applying fresh. So that is the law changed, allowed the practical options to IRP to do a compliance. Another rule is normally in filing of Companies Act balance sheets. Now, when I told you that directors resigns or director not resign, director power is suspended. So if suppose March year end has come, so we have 31st March 21 has come and June I need to sign the balance sheet. I am the RP. Will the promoters director sign on the balance sheet or IRP will sign? RP will sign.
RP will
RP
sign.
will sign.
How many RPs are in the company?
One.
One.
And how many balance sheet in balance sheet? How many signatures we need of management?
Minimum 2.
Minimum 2. So normally 2 directors used to say normally. In this case, will any director sign?
No.
No director will sign. Even though the director says because we are suspended, so why should I take risk of your signature? I don't know what you did. So when I don't know what you did, why should I sign? So that was becoming a practical challenge that law says I need 2 signatures, but there is only one RP. So now the law got amended and system got amended. In case of IBC cases, one IP is known as CEO, and in the rules they've amended, and only one signature can happen, and that should be fine. So one signature is acceptable in case of IP cases. That is acceptable. So we need to understand law keeps on changing as and when question comes and as when practical problems comes. Because nobody preempted these kind of questions coming, but slowly law is very fast and law is very aggressive. So that's why they are changing. Now we'll take income tax on a small little bit. So as I told you, first question we discussed. Please ask us.
One small doubt, sir. Sir,
your doubts are not small. Your doubts are always big. So you ask, sir, big doubt. Ask.
It's a small practical.
All doubts should be discussed and asked.
One company in Bangalore which got into CRIP, and RP have asked the directors to sign the balance sheet, but the directors are not signing it, and RP has signed it, and resolution process have gone complete, and one among the promoters, some say they are doctors, say 20 doctors, out of 20, 10 are willing to take resolution and start this company afresh. So they have approached an RP with the price, and they have got it, and they have bought that company. Right now, it is in the e-assessment stage, where that case got opened, being associated with income tax. I'm just sharing the views. This director is writing blah 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 things that it is RP have done it. RP have done everything. It is not us. You are putting the onus and liability on the RP, and not taking the credit of what has to be done. But he is not acknowledging the fact, and the case is still pending. But I'm just asking whether that is a fact, whether these directors can put the accountability on the RP, whatever the thing that he had done in good faith, to revive the company with a resolution.
So there is this fact cannot be denied that it is signed by RP. So that is a fact. But did the RP sign on his own? So RPs, whenever you get any email from RP, and once you become registered valuer, you'll get emails from a lot of RPs also that, we give your profiles, we want to have in a record. And why they say is not because they are very good. There is a cartel. Because I need to appoint within 7 days. अब 7 days में मैं कहाँ ढूंढने जाऊँगा आरपी को, तो मैं जितनी emails है मेरे पास, I'll send an email to them, give your quote, whoever gives a quote I appoint. Now RP, and whenever you receive an email, you will see the below signature, the word would be RP acting with limited liability on behalf of company only. So RP, no personal liability takes on RP. Now somebody has to sign. So earlier RPs refused to sign. RP says, why should I sign the balance sheet? Because I am not the owner, the COC should sign. COC people refuse. COC says, we are just a caretaker. We are not regulator, because normally who are in COC? Banks. Normally banks are in COC, and banks will never sign anything. So bank says, I should not sign any balance sheet. We will not sign anything. So that becomes a trouble. Who should sign? Why should sign? Then it was ultimately discussed by NCLT, and IBBA says RP has to sign because he is running the show, and he is running as an independent capacity, not taking personal responsibility. He is taking care of the company. Now, income tax department cannot question RP that why you did that. That cannot be there. They can always ask to RP, shows the detail, what you have claimed, why you have not claimed. Because a lot of, in these case of IPs, lot of cleaning of balance sheet happens. So suppose a lot of creditors which were shown as a creditor earlier, if they have not come, so I will write it off them. Then it would be either in suspense, or it would be a capital gain. A gain will be levied on my income. So RP, whatever does, if he can justify the claim, that should be fine. The directors cannot just say, now we do not ask anything to us. Once the director has taken the responsibility of the company, all liabilities goes to them. So that is period. Nobody can touch RP. And he have a blanket shield from IBBA. They will not touch him. But there is unfortunate part, very unfortunate part happened. Noida, if you are in Delhi Noida sector, you will be aware. There is one company of this it is Amrapali or JP. I think that Noida Bridge is maintained by JP company. Okay. There is one accident happened on that bridge. So the bridge was so deep, so you turn. So one biker died on the bridge due to the faulty design in the bridge. The company was in IRP, is in CIRP. Police came from Noida to Mumbai, picked the Mumbai IP, who was IP running the company, JP, and he was taken to Noida, put into jail for 3 hours. Then later on, in the meantime, IBBI intervened and he was out of jail. The question police said was, "Sir, we are afraid this guy might run away, and it's a big case, so we want to catch hold the CEO of the company." As per the records, now he becomes the CEO. Later on, IBBI give a left, right, center to the police department that how can you put hold on a guy who's representing doing the work of government. So at times lawmakers are not aware, they have not fully updated knowledge of law, so they put questions. But income tax cannot touch IP at all. For sure, I can tell you, because I know some big IPs who have done big things. Nothing has happened to them because they have the blanket shield from IBBI. Because somebody has to sign. Somebody need to keep your hands dirty to clean the mess. Now, income tax, those who practice income tax, for them, it's a cakewalk. Those who do not practice income tax, touching act after a long time, for them, little bit challenge. If you do not practice income tax at all or not aware of income tax, best way would be open Ready Reckoner. Take a Ready Reckoner of income tax. Ready Reckoner comes where you mandatory need to read what few things mandatory you need to read. One, you need to read clubbing and set off provisions and carry forward of losses. So these things you need to read mandatory. What is clubbing? What is carry forward, set off? One, you need to read Rule 11 UA. In exam, they are asking question on Rule 11 UA. I'll touch base Rule 11 UA shortly, very soon. So this is basic you need to know. So I'll quickly touch on loss of house property. Normally we understand all losses. It's a thumb rule. All losses are carried forward for 8 years generally. If you do not carry forward within the same head or within the other heads of income, once you are carrying forward, it is 8 years. That's a general thumb rule. There are certain losses which you do not carry forward for 8 years. You either carry forward for 4 years or carry forward for n number of period. That is 2 losses. There are speculative losses, non-speculative, and losses under Section 3580. Rule says if you have a non-speculative loss, that's a normal business loss, you can set off against any other heads except salary. Salary income cannot be adjusted against losses of business, and you cannot adjust against speculative business profits. Carry forward can do for 8 years. You can always carry forward these losses for 8 years. Speculative business losses can only adjust against speculative business income. You cannot adjust against normal businesses, and carry forward is for 4 years. So this is an exception where you can only carry forward speculative business losses for 4 years. There are specified business like opening a hospital of 100 beds or something which is under Section 3580. Losses can adjust against only the specified business income, not from any other business income. There is no limit for carry forward. You can carry forward to n number of period. This is only 2 exceptions, and one exception is horse race. A lot of people get confused in short term, long term. Exam, this confusion. Yeah.
Unobserved depreciation.
This is unlimited. Unlimited. In case of loss of capital gains, a lot of people get confused between short term and long term, because some losses are allowed to adjust against long term, short term, long term against only long term. So just remember, short term capital loss you cannot adjust from any other heads. It will be only adjusted inter head only from long term to short term. So if you have a capital gain long term, you can adjust with short term capital loss or vice versa. But in case of long term capital loss, long term capital loss can only be adjusted against long term capital gain. Long term capital loss cannot be adjusted with short term capital gain. So just remember, short term can adjust with anything, long term with only long term. Carry forward is for 8 years again. You can always carry forward for 8 years. Loss from other sources, only for the loss of owning and maintaining resources, that can be carried forward for 4 years. The rest all can be carried forward for 8 years. Now, basic questions, very basic fundamental questions. I have agriculture land. Now I have given this land on a rent to a person for doing farming. So I said, give me 10,000 rupees per month as a rent. This 10,000 rupees rent, it is taxable or exempted?
Exempted.
Taxable.
Taxable.
It is exempted.
Agriculture.
It is commercial use of property.
It is exempted. Even though it is a commercial use, rental income coming from agricultural land is exempted.
It is agriculture.
It is agricultural land. It is agriculture. It is not the commercial land. Agricultural land, and I've given for rent. This is a very tricky question they have asked in exam. And if you, once we go to the act, probably if you want to go to the act, you'll see that it is exempted. Now, I have a farm estate and I have appointed a manager to manage the estate. I am giving him salary 50,000 rupees per month. The salary received by manager, taxable, exempted.
Taxable.
Sriram, what is your stand now?
It's taxable. Tea estate, no?
It is taxable. Whatever state it may be, he is drawing salary not as a agriculture, he is drawing salary as a manager, as a salary. So it will be taxable salary. Now, agricultural land, if I, let's say Baba Ramdev has an agriculture island in Switzerland. So whatever earnings he are having from that island, taxable or exempted?
Taxable.
Why?
Land outside India.
So agricultural land has to be in India. Okay. And I'm sure you would be had a classic case of Chidambaram having a agriculture income from balcony. Are you aware of this case or no?
Yes,
No.
sir. 12 crore की सर गोभी उगा
12 crores cauliflower he grown in his balcony. That is an interesting case of Chidambaram, and I thought, Sriram, you must be knowing him. He is from your area, Chennai. You must be knowing Chidambaram.
Definitely.
So it's a very interesting case. It's a very interesting case. Google on this interesting case how Chidambaram grown vegetable, how Chidambaram got agriculture income from his balcony. So that's a very interesting case which became for a lot of discussion purpose on that. So agriculture in land can be anywhere in India, not outside India. What is the standard deduction in house property? 30% is standard deduction. You get it. Gift receipt 50,000 more than above is taxable. Clubbing of income you need to see. In clubbing of income is husband giving income to wife without any basis, that is taxable. But if wife has a professional qualification, then it is not clubbed. Then you don't club. So question comes in exam like husband is a music director and wife is a singer. Husband gives money to wife for singing the song. Should be clubbed, not clubbed. So it will not be clubbed because she is getting from her on her independent skills. Rounding of tax we discussed, it is 10. Simple question comes in exam. To claim double tax avoidance agreement, what is the minimum document required? First basic document required.
TRC.
Passport is not the answer.
Yes.
Do not say passport चाहिए, passport चाहिए तभी बाहर जाएगा. It is tax residency certificate to claim this. TRC is mandatory document. After this TRC, you go for other documents. Question comes on transfer pricing methods or under which section transfer pricing is mentioned. So 91 talks about DTA, 92 talks about transfer pricing. So they have mentioned methods. So there are 5 methods. So in exam, what they do, they will give you 4 methods. One method will not be transfer pricing method and say which is an odd one out. So try to know what are the 4 methods. Just try to know the name of 5 methods. So as per income tax, there are 5 methods: comparable control and price method, resale, cost plus profit split, and transactional net margin methods. Just try to know these names of methods. In exam, anything can be split up, or they can give you which is the method, choose that. So know these names of transaction price method. Now question comes on 11 UA. Okay. Now if two shareholders are selling shares among themselves, then mandatory I need report under which all acts. So there is a private limited company, ABC Private Limited. 2 shareholder A and B want to sell their shares to C and D or any third parties. So I need valuation report under which acts mandatory. Any thoughts?
Income tax.
Income Tax Act, Companies Act, SEBI.
Private limited companies, so SEBI will be ruled out. Ideally, private limited company.
Okay.
So if it is a foreign transaction, then also RBI needs.
Make it simpler. Make it simpler. I'll not go to FEMA. It is Indian only. Indian shareholder. So Sriram is selling to Sudhanshu. What will happen then?
Only income tax.
income tax.
Binal, what is your view?
So as such, valuation report is not specifically required, but if you have to pay tax on premium, like if there is underreporting and you have to charge like income from other sources, then to decide that value, you might need a report.
फिर वो मैं क्यों डिसाइड करूंगा जब मैं ही चोरी कर रहा हूँ तो मैं क्यों report? So your first part is right. So that was the right answer. I don't need any report. Strictly speaking, law. If I follow the law, I take report that is voluntary. Does mandatory section ask me to take a report on transfer? Answer is no. If I'm selling a share between A to B shareholders, I don't need any report in income tax nor in Companies Act. Why I don't need any report in Companies Act? For a simple reason. When Shriram is selling to Sudhanshu, money goes to Shriram account or company's account?
My account.
So if money is going to your account, how does it harm the balance sheet of my company? Does it affect my balance sheet of company?
No.
Don't.
It does not affect your balance sheet of company. So if it is not impacting my balance sheet, don't need any report. So Companies Act does not need any report. Income tax does not need any report. But still, knowing this, we don't need any report. All MNC companies take a report from income tax for a CA.
But if it is a DCA valuation, then the report is required.
I'll come. I have not. Just give me. I'm trying to clear the confusion. So we are talking of transfer of shares, where law does not say no need of report. Why law does not ask for report? For a simple reason. Law says I have given you a formula. A plus B plus C plus D minus L. This is the formula I have given. So if you are using this formula, I don't need a report of a CA or a merchant banker. I don't need any report. You give me the valuation as per formula. Even a management can do on a plain paper. That is a formula. Knowing that section does not require. So we got a lot of calls from clients and CAs ki, now you have become a value. Just do a valuation. Give me a report as per 50 CA. And then I used to explain. You try to become genuine. कि सर रिपोर्ट नहीं चाहिए, आपका खर्चा बच गया. तो सामने से जवाब आता है, अबे मुझे भी पता है एक्ट मैंने भी पढ़ा, रिपोर्ट नहीं चाहिए, फिर भी हम मांग रहे हैं. मैंने कहा अच्छा आपको पता है, because I don't want कि later you say you have missold me कि तेरे को पता था बताया नहीं. He says despite knowing that we don't need a report, all MNC clients prefer a report from CA so that whenever an assessment happens and ITO questions them, they can put the ball on the court of CA. सर हमें तो पता नहीं था, हम तो जानते नहीं लॉ. सीए ने रिपोर्ट बना के दिया, उसने वेरीफाई करा, हमने ट्रांजैक्शन कर दिया. फिर सीए और आपस में डिपार्टमेंट आपस में सेटल करते रहेंगे. दैट इज द रीजन पीपल टेक. प्रैक्टिकली वी डोंट नीड. नाउ हाउ डज सो अंडरस्टैंड वन सिंपल वर्ड. 11 UA for a transfer gives you a minimum price. So 11 UA says if you want to transfer A plus B plus C plus D minus L should be the minimum benchmark. That should be your sale price. So suppose my 11 UA A plus B D minus is showing 100 rupees value. So 100 is my fair value coming as per this formula, and I am selling at 80 rupees. Then what will happen? Practically what will happen? So though I am selling at 80 rupees, system will assume that I have sold at 100 rupees only. So I will be taxed at 100 rupees only, whereas I sold only at 80 rupees. And then the buyer who got at 80 rupees, he need to pay tax on 20 rupees because buyer got a asset less than the fair value. So he got benefit. So 20 rupees for what tax dega. That is on transfer. In transfer, you have no choice. Benchmark is A plus B plus C D minus L. Or A plus B plus C D kya hai? Just read the rules once. What is A plus B plus C D and L? I'll explain. A means all assets of the balance sheet, excluding jewelry, immovable property, and shares. So you reduce jewelry, you reduce intangible jewelry, immovable property, and securities, investments. You remove that. B plus C plus D is B is your intangible, B is your jewelry, your artwork. C is your investment in shares, equities. D is your immovable property. So these should be valued at fair value. So B plus C plus D should be at fair value. A should be at book value minus liabilities. Whatever comes becomes your fair value. Divided by number of shares gives you a fair value. Now that is for transfer. Now for issue. Now for issuing shares, what is to be done for issuing shares? In case of issuing shares, what we do here, it gives you two choices. So department says if you want to issue shares, so there is a company who want to issue shares, you have two choice. Either issue at book value or issue at discounted cash flow method, which should be certified by a merchant banker. So if it is a book value, the certificate should be by a CA. CA can give a certificate for a book value. If you are using DCF method, then it should be by a merchant banker. And they have written one more line extra. Apart from these two methods, you can use any other method up to the satisfaction of assessing officer. And this word has different meanings in different interpretation. Up to the satisfaction of AO, so you understand how AO is satisfied. There is a different connotation to this meaning. So which is generally for a lot of startups do not have capture in A and B. So they have put this condition, and I know a lot of people use this condition to get valuation done. Now what is the problem in this valuation? 11 UA for issue, it gives you maximum price. Now when on a transfer, I said it gives you a minimum price, that's a benchmark, that is a floor price. In case of issue, it gives you a cap, that is the highest price. Why? Suppose as per rule UA, which we are talking of issue, my fair value comes at 100 rupees, okay, as per income tax. Now, if a company wants to issue shares at 200 rupees, is there any problem in Companies Act? Companies Act has no problem. You issue at 200 rupees, we are fine. Problem comes at Income Tax Act. What is the problem at Income Tax Act? Any thoughts?
100 की चीज के 200 मिल गए.
हाँ, प्रॉब्लम कहाँ है? तो कहाँ दिक्कत है? कोई दिक्कत है या नहीं है? मैं तो इशू कर रहा हूँ शेयर्स, तो कोई दिक्कत है कहीं पे या नहीं है? या आने तो क्या फर्क पड़ता है? कंपनी के पास से तो आ रहा है पैसा, या कोई प्रॉब्लम है?
डिफरेंस अमाउंट पे टैक्स लगेगा.
कौन देगा?
अलॉटी
टैक्स लगेगा, और दैट इज द बिगेस्ट चैलेंज. So a company need to pay tax under section 56(2)(10) for getting shares, getting value more than the rule 11 UA. So अगर मेरी value 100 है rule 11 UA में for issue of shares, and if I issue at 200 rupees, company had to pay tax on extra 100 rupees, which company does not like. So that's why company will say either take DCF method to get a higher value or anywhere. Now, whose choice is to use method, book value or DCF? Can assessing officer, is it assessing office choice or it is my choice?
My choice.
And can assessing officer change it?
No.
So this is always a right of a assessee to use whatever method you want, book value or DCF. Assessing officer cannot challenge it. The only challenge assessing officer can do it, he can review your report. So whatever DCF report you have given, if he finds you have done fundamentally wrong, then only he can challenge your report. Otherwise, he can never question, he can never tell you why being a loss-making company you are issuing DCF. That is not his right. And ITAT has ordered in favor of so many cases where for a loss-making startup, huge premium has came, and assessing officer added that premium. Later on, ITAT rejected. Classic cases of Rakesh Jhunjhunwala. If you have read the case of Sinestan, recently at 2 months back, a new case happened on Sinestan where it was a loss-making company. Jhunjhunwala invested heavily at a high premium because it was a startup for film industry. Then the court ordered, when an independent investor, and that too Jhunjhunwala, who has little bit knowledge, court भी बड़ा मजा लेता है, थोड़ी बहुत knowledge है जिसको market की. When he is investing such a big money, you cannot say the method is wrong, because the person who is doing a transaction knows much better than us. We are a consultants, we are law. It is not our job to say at what price the transaction should happen. That is done by consultants. So if a consultant has given a report, if you don't find blatant error in the report, we will not challenge the report. So that was, he admitted that. So that was okay. So read questions on ABCD or fair value little bit. Question asked on that. What else they ask questions on? Yeah, this is probably more of they ask questions on income tax. So of it, these are asking. So rounding off, they're asking. They don't ask much technical questions. They just ask basic questions on rounding off. 11 UA 92 of it, they're asking. Questions on DTA and 91, 92. Just read basics. That should be sufficient to catch up. Don't need to read entire act.
What was the estimated charge of merchant banker?
Generally, if you call, I'll give you some names. Okay, if you call them, I will take 1.5 lakhs. But आप सुमित का नाम ले रहे हो तो 1 लाख ले लेंगे. ठीक है, that's the way. फिर मैं उनको बोलूँगा, भाई, अच्छा ठीक है 75 लेंगे. फिर वो लोग भाई client 50 देगा. ठीक है, चल 50 में कर देंगे. So they will start with high, and why they start with high, we need to understand. There are only 194 merchant bankers in India, and out of 194, only 64 practice actively in valuations. So they try to show they are very chargy. You can get a merchant banker from 25,000 rupees to 1 lakh rupees. Where there is a ESOP valuation, they are very expensive. But in case of normal DCF, between 30 to 50, you can easily done. Or if you are talking practically, do not quote me anyway. merchant banker ko मारेगा पकड़ के मुझे. Rule is, अगर आपने valuation कर दिया है, so let's say for a Companies Act, I have done a valuation, और उसको सिर्फ ठप्पा लगाना है, तो you can do for 30,000. That is not a challenge. But बोलता है नहीं, मुझे खुद valuation करना है पूरा, and then you will copy my report, then you will charge not less than 50,000. That's a standard practice among pan India all merchant bankers you can get. So you
How
can
they become the merchant banker?
उसके लिए 5 करोड़ का डिपॉजिट चाहिए होता है.
Okay.
बस यही सोच के जिस दिन मैंने सोचा उस दिन मैंने छोड़ दिया. मैंने कहा ये अपने से नहीं हो पाएगा. 5 करोड़ पहले कमाएंगे फिर डिपॉजिट रखेंगे. अपार्ट फ्रॉम दैट 5 करोड़, दैट्स ऑन अ लाइटर नोट. मर्चेंट बैंकर कभी भी वैल्यूएशन के लिए नहीं बनते. मर्चेंट बैंकर्स फॉर वैल्यूएशन इज लाइक अ स्टार्टर फॉर देम. They don't find money in valuations. Merchant banker find money only in IPOs and book building process. That's where they get money. Valuation उनके लिए side business है, वो ध्यान भी नहीं देते. But why merchant banking is not lucrative now for few reasons. Of late, एक alternative investment funds होता है. I don't know how many of you are aware of AIFs. Alternative investment funds होते हैं. पहले merchant bankers की monopoly होती थी उसमें. Every 6 months they used to do a valuation. Last 6 months, all IAFs have decided. सेबी कहीं बोलता ही नहीं कि वैल्यूएशन मर्चेंट बैंकर से कराओ. सेबी बोलता है वैल्यूअर से कराओ. नाउ दे आर गेटिंग वैल्यूएशन डन बाय ऑल रजिस्टर्ड वैल्यूअर्स. सो दिस इज देयर स्कोप इज रिड्यूसिंग. सेबी हैज सेड इन लास्ट नवंबर, इससे पहले जब तक लिस्टेड कंपनीज का मर्जर होता था, मैंडेटरी इट इज सपोज्ड टू बी बाय ओनली merchant bankers. Now SEBI has made a rule that whenever a listed company is getting merged, mandatory report from registered valuer will be taken. So this is reducing their scope and increasing scope of registered valuers. And merchant bankers का अलग problem है. You need to keep a staff mandatory. Like आपको 2 CFA रखने हैं, एक compliance head रखना है. So there your cost becomes very heavy. इसलिए merchant banking is not advisable unless you are into share issue business. अगर आपको IPOs कराने का शौक है, like SME sectors का, which is a good business now, then merchant banking license can be taken off. Otherwise, I don't find it's worth practically. Okay. And we have so many merchant bankers in Delhi, Mumbai, Nasik who do whatever valuation you want. You can get it. That's not a challenge. And client को हमेशा same value चाहिए. Because and why the client needs same value? Because of 11 UA. He does not want to pay taxes more on whatever he is receiving. So client says your value, DCF and DCF as per Companies Act should be same. That is his minimum expectation. Now, in case of ESOPs, so there are 2 valuations required in ESOP and 2 types of gains happen. So in ESOP, first valuation happens at the time of grant of shares. So when the shares are granted, you get a valuation by registered valuer. Then there is a vesting period. In vesting period, you just get a reporting valuation. Every year you get a valuation done by registered valuer or a CA for reporting purpose in balance sheet. And then when you are exercising, when the client says, SSC says, I need to buy the stock, I need to buy the shares now, then you need a report from merchant banker mandatory, because Income Tax Act says for perquisites valuation should be done by merchant banker. So in case of ESOP, merchant banker comes in picture only when the employee exercise the option of taking options from the company. Now, when the employee is taking options, when he is exercising the option, he need to pay income tax as per merchant banker report. So merchant banker will say fair value is 100 rupees and you exercise at 50 or let's say 60 rupees. So 40 is your gain. So 40 will be considered as my income during that year. So 40 will be charged to my income as a salary and I need to pay tax on that. Now, when I sell the shares, so I got the share of let's say HDFC Limited as a ESOP. After 2 years when I'm selling the shares, though I have paid 60, that is my exercise price, for income tax purpose, my price will be 100 because I have paid tax on 40 rupees extra based on the merchant banker report. So my cost of acquisition becomes 100 rupees. And then whatever I sell, my deduction will be based on 100 rupees. That is ESOP. So it happens 2 times. One is capital gain, one is as a perquisite, depending on when I am selling. That is on ESOPs. Pay your taxes with smile, that everybody wants, but nobody wants to pay taxes with smile. So government will take your taxes whenever they want. Capital gains mostly happens in ESOPs because of value you get. Take example of Paytm. When you are having a Paytm, huge ESOPs people have issued. And for normal practice, if you are in metro cities, you get a lot of assignments from ESOPs because all MNCs, all IT companies do a valuation of ESOPs. And this is the most technical valuation. ESOP valuations are not simple valuations, but it does not mean these are very difficult, but these are not routine valuations. But once you start doing valuation of ESOP, you'll understand there is so much of material available on net on ESOP valuation. Once you start doing it, it's very simple. Practically, ESOP has a lot of difficulties, like there are phantom shares where you get cash against shares. There are Series A, Series B shares. So with various clauses. So once you work on ESOP startup sector, you will find various nuances of ESOP. So that can be done. Any questions on tax or anything else you want to ask before we wind up for the day? Or we can take surfacey also if we have enough time. So if you have energy, we can take 15-20 minutes, one act if you have energy. If you don't have energy, then we can wind up.
We can wind up.
We can wind up. सुनील तो बहुत फ्रेश लग रहा है, ताजा ताजा लग रहा है. ऑफिस में बैठे हैं, कहाँ बैठे हैं?
इसमें.
Sir.
बोलिए.
Sir, when I was working last year with a CS firm, they used to ask me one question which they have not answered yet, and I didn't get the answer. Like one of the client having the balance sheet, and in that they have lot of premium, that securities premium free reserve. So they came for a suggestion that for a tax purpose, which is the best route to get out, that is a buyback or a dividend.
The question, if they would have asked 2 years back, would have been much easier. 2 years back, because then there was no tax on buyback. But then government introduced tax on buyback. Buyback is better option than dividend. It is better option because in dividend now the recipient will also pay tax. If I'm paying dividend of more than 10 lakh rupees, he will also have to pay taxes if you're having a huge premium. So you can look for capital reduction or winding up. That is the only way. Buyback can be, it will take 17% tax bracket approximately. Okay. One good thing which you asked from balance sheet, which I missed from balance sheet, just for practical purpose, I'm telling for practical purpose. When you do a 11U evaluation, okay, and when I'm doing sale of shares, which balance sheet, what date balance sheet I should have? As per law, not as per my convenience, as per law. Law says balance sheet किस दिन का होना चाहिए. When you do a transfer of shares, जब दो जने share बेच रहे हैं, and law is illogical. What does the law says? Take an audited balance sheet on the date of transfer. Now you all think, is it practically possible? अभी मेरे पास Paytm का एक शेयर है और मैं एक शेयर बेच रहा हूँ Paytm का. विजय शेखर शर्मा मुझे बैलेंस शीट ऑडिट करा के देगा मेरे डेट पे. So practically you cannot get an audit done. I can get a management account as on the date of balance sheet, that too difficult. But audit possible nahi hai. But that's the law. You read the law 11U and says balance sheet should be as on the date of transfer. On the transfer. So practically that is not happening. So what generally we do, practically we do a lot of 11U cases. So what we do, we ask the management the nearest date. Suppose we are doing a transaction on 15th of March. So we say, okay, get us a balance sheet of 31st December, even unaudited, get a certificate from a management that this is the best available with me. So we write in the report based on unaudited financials, we are doing a valuation as per 11UA. that is the nearest number I can have. Otherwise, you cannot have same day audited balance sheet. In case of issue, so for a transfer, they say same day. In case of issue, they say, if you have a balance sheet last audited, accepted in AGM, that is sufficient. Not even current date. So if I'm issuing on 15th of March, they say take a balance 21, take a balance sheet of 31st March 20, that is acceptable. So in issue, there is no challenge. Why there is no challenge in issue? Because in issue, the formula is book value. So book value does not make a difference, whatever you put in. But in case of transfer, it is fair value. So they always questions on fair value. That is a practical challenge you will always face in terms of balance sheet.
In case of transfer of shares, can we do DCF or only that formula is still followed?
Never. You don't have choice. So the point which I'm trying to put here is, suppose my value is coming 100 as per your 11-year formula A plus B plus C plus D. But you want to do a DCF and your DCF value shows 200. You can always sell it 200. There is no problem. But your DCF gives me a value 90. Then you cannot use that. So that is a benchmark. So 11-year gives you minimum floor price that 100 में तो बेचना ही है. इससे ऊपर कौन सा method आप लेते हो? They are least bothered. They will not even question you.
And in case of issue of shares, is book value the actual book value in the balance sheet, or is that the formula will take?
Actual book value. That's why if you see the slide I have said, it is A minus L, pure book value. In case of transfer, they have given definition A plus B plus C plus D. But when you go to rule 11 and why we get confusion, इन्होंने rule 11 एक ही rule में issue भी लिख दिया, transfer भी लिख दिया, so people get confused. Had they would have made separate rules for issue and transfer, it could have been much better. That's the normal process.
For transfer, we take the balance sheet as on the date of transfer.
This is what the law says. This is, अगर आप एक बार rule 11 में कभी पढ़ोगे, उसमें balance sheet पढ़ोगे तो बोलता है as on the date of transfer. Practically, you cannot get on a date of transfer. अगर आप मेजर शेयर होल्डर हो किसी के तो अलग बात है, आपके पास ये 90-100% शेयर है, बराबर है. बट अभी फॉर एग्जांपल मेरे पास पेटीएम का शेयर्स है और मुझे शेयर करना है. If I want to sell a share of Paytm, which is an unlisted company, will he make balance sheet for me as on that date? Answer is no. This has been told to n number of times to departments by very senior professionals, like I know Vinod Jainji or Pramod Jainji, who has made this statement, our council members, to income tax at CBDT, that this is a logical rule. They say we cannot do anything. This is the best way we need to get price. If you cannot get it, give a disclaimer. So practically that does not happen. But this is what they are asking for. That is the section. But we always go one day later. That's what we do.
Sir, one query.
One small doubt.
A big doubt.
Big doubt.
There are two companies under same management. They are one group of family. One group is running one company, another group is running another company. There is a operation mismanagement. Both have gone for NCLT. Board meeting have not been conducted. AGM has not been conducted. Special permission have been taken from NCLT. The company is running on because it does 200 employees, so they don't want to spoil the welfare of the people. It is running. They are coming for a compromise. Say they in A company, B company's directors are shareholders. In B company, A company's directors are shareholders. They are going for a family settlement of swapping of shares. If that is the case, maybe what would be the implication in 11 UA?
So 11 you will say first take out a value as per respective company. Both the company's value will come in, and then whatever the swap you are doing, that gain will move accordingly. So they will not get an exemption. So for example, I will do a first valuation of A company as per 11 UA. Whatever the value is coming, let's say 100 is coming as per A. I will do a valuation of company B. Whatever is coming is valuation B. It will assume that the transaction is happening at this price. You give money, not give money, it is immaterial. You just exchange the shares. You do not want to do any cash transaction, hypothetically assuming the dispute. But it will be, for tax purpose, it will be assumed that you are transferring at that fair value which has come. That's a minimum. So if my fair value is coming 100, it will be assumed that you are transferred at 100. That is there in case of 11 UA. Somewhere it is written that in case of swap, you will take the fair value, what the asset is coming. So whatever is coming, I will recognize it as a selling point. So suppose
Sir, if it goes to Yes, sir.
Suppose my A value is
Go ahead,
100.
sir. Tell me, sir.
My A value is 100 and my B value is 200. Fair value of A is 100 and B is 200. Now we are swapping the share, right? So 200 will be shown as my sale consideration because I'm selling my stock to B and I'm getting worth assets of B 200. So 200 will be my sale commission, sale value as per 11 UA. Even though there is no cash movement happening. So there will be a tax liability on the receiver, which they will always dispute. They will not understand. That is a problem because I'll give a classic example. A lot of people say, मैं मेरी बेटी को शेयर दे रहा हूँ. अगर मुझे मेरी बेटी को शेयर देने हैं, then do not do a sale. Then do not do a sale. Then do a gift. If I'm doing a gift, then it is not a sale. That you need to tax planning you need to do. That should be taken care of.
I asked a question
Sir,
individually
this is
to you.
why this question have arisen because the case have been filed with NCLT for misappropriation. So it is evident from the public record that there is a dispute among the family and there is a problem inherited to the system. Say, if I do a transfer of a gift like that, that fellow won't agree.
That fellow won't
Say,
agree.
income tax fellow.
And I always say
Whether NCLT.
Yeah, whether NCLT.
Whether NCLT accept this 11 UA, say out of court compromise, I'm going for that. Say I want to solve this problem. That's why I'm going for an out of court compromise with 11 UA coming into picture.
No, both are different acts. NCLT will not accept 11 UA.
To the NCLT that we had a compromise out of court.
Income tax will not accept your compromise. Income tax will not accept your argument. NCLT may accept, income tax will not accept. NCLT will pass an order, okay, you transfer shares, settle it. NCLT will be okay to close that. But income tax will say, pay tax as per what are 11 UA.
Okay.
What happens?
Sunil, that I agree. That I agree.
Because a question on call about the 11 UA for transfer of share.
Sorry, I could not get your query.
I asked a question on 11 UA on call na. Maybe 3 days back. I called you. I called you.
अच्छा वो आप थे क्या?
हाँ.
अच्छा. I thought somebody else from other. Okay. तो मैंने क्या आंसर दिया था? जो अभी बोला वही आंसर दिया था, कोई दूसरा आंसर दिया था?
पर इसको मुझे टैक्स बचाने के लिए मैंने वो गिफ्ट कर दिया शेयर सारे.
बराबर. आपने उस टाइम मुझसे पूछा ही नहीं टैक्स बचाना है. तो मैं कंसल्टिंग वैसे हेल्प किया करता.
तो मैंने गिफ्ट ही कर दिया शेयर आखिरी में सारे.
बस ऐसे ही लोग हमारा वैल्यूएशन का काम खराब करते हैं. सर गिफ्ट दे दो तो सर्टिफिकेट खत्म हो गया हमारा. So that's on a lighter note because I was thinking somebody else, Sunil from other city. So I was not aware it was you who called. Okay. And as Neha has asked, tax sale करोगे तो tax लगेगा ही लगेगा चाहे अपने बेटे को भी sale करो. You cannot say the gift is the best option to avoid taxes, and that's the way a lot of people make. आपको सिर्फ stamp duty देनी पड़ेगी, whatever is little. Okay. So if you have any other question, Anuj जी कोई question आपका या कुछ inputs आपके experience? कि अनुज जी बोल रहे हैं मैं तो काम भी कर लूँ ऑफिस में आकर दोनों काम हो जाएंगे.
जाने का टाइम
हो गया. मंगल करने का टाइम हो गया. अपना दुकान बढ़ा लेते हैं अपन अपनी. So Neha, you have any queries? Neha पहले log off करके चली गई. ठीक है.
Sir, I am still here, sir.
You are still here. Okay. So we'll take a off and now next week probably would be the last week. So next week would be a little bit hectic week also. Because that will be too much of practicals. So my advice would be, if you can spend in next 5 days some points on fixed income and bonds. थोड़ा सा कॉल पुट पढ़ लेंगे तो आपको लेक्चर में ज्यादा समझ में आएगा. बिना पढ़े करेंगे तो सर के ऊपर से जाएगा. क्योंकि अब तक हम जो पढ़ रहे थे ये लॉलीपॉप था, क्योंकि सबको आता था, सबने पढ़ रखा था, तो गले में के नीचे उतर रहा था. बट बाद में हम कुछ ऐसी चीज पढ़ेंगे विच इज कॉम्प्लिकेटेड. So we don't have much time. So better एक बार थोड़ा सा पढ़ लीजिए. It will be easy. I will share you 3 materials on email. That will be big ICMA modules. At least उसमें से आपको कुछ पढ़ने को मिल जाएगा on fixed income and derivatives. और ये fixed income and bonds. ये थोड़ा सा पढ़ लीजिए. That will be helpful. Fine. With this I take on leave and thank you for being kind in every lectures. Nobody slept. So I'll take your leave and Have a good day, and we'll see you on the last day on the winding up. So have a good day.
Thanks, sir.
And if you have any queries, you can feel free to call. और मैं कॉल पे सही रिस्पॉन्ड ही करता हूँ. सुनील ने प्रूव कर दिया फिर. ठीक है. Okay, have a good day.
After finishing this, I will be troubling you for IBBS.
Anytime. We always learn from discussions only. So always ask questions. We'll be happy.
Yes, I've been trying to crack this exam from 2019 onwards. I'm trying to, but I'm not able to sit properly to study. So this being
that's the challenge. हो जाएगा. Should be over. Sure.
Thanks, sir.
Okay, take care. Good day.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you all. Good day.